I thank my lucky stars for my father going into the wholesale business, because if he would, he and my grandfather argued a lot. My grandfather couldn't possibly understand why you'd want to go into the wholesale meat business when we have such a great retail store.
You're listening to Meet Long Island, where every week we speak with business owners from all across Long Island and dig deep into how they started, how they grew, and what they are doing now. You may recognize some of the people and places behind them, but we will uncover the stories that you haven't heard yet. Your host, Arthur Frischman, is a native Long Islander, a Northport Tiger, and launched his first business here at the age of 16. As a serial entrepreneur for the last 40 years, he loves speaking to other business people about their daily grind and what keeps them in the game. Thanks for joining us today. Now, let's go meet Long Island.
Welcome, Lee Seelig, the purveyor of Main Street Meats in Farmingdale. Lee is a native Long Islander, a Syosset Brave, a Michigan Wolverine, and the owner or part owner of Main Street Meats, and also a part-time comedian. Lee, tell us a little bit about you before we get started into the business component.
First of all, thank you. Thanks for having me here. Yes, I do enjoy doing comedy, although it's debatable how funny it is, so that's the question, I just did a show this past weekend that was horrible, so it's making me question my choice of hobbies. But yeah, Main Street Wholesale Meats is our wholesale company. Farmingdale Meat Market is our retail store that a lot of consumers are probably more familiar with, like on Long Island. Our meat market has been here since 1946, so we've been around for a minute at this point, like almost on year 77. My grandfather started the company in 1946. My father branched out into the wholesale business, we'll say about 30 to 35 years ago. The wholesale business is probably, we'll say, 93 to 95% of our business. So it makes up a good, huge chunk of our volume and stuff. That's really what drives everything at this point. Although I will say that the retail store, even after, being around for 77 years, has never been better. It's experienced quite a bit of a resurgence in the past 3 to 5 years, I'd say, when people have been wanting to be more supportive of, local businesses and not wanting to get their meat, basically not wanting to get their meat at a supermarket and trying to get your meat from your butcher, and there's less and less local butcher shops around. And part of the reason for that is because it is so hard to make money being a retail butcher. And part of the reason why we've been able to stay open is because we have this wholesale business, right? So without the wholesale, I thank my lucky stars for so many things. My wife, that's primarily when I'm thanking my lucky stars. I start with my wife. But after that, I thank my lucky stars for my father going into the wholesale business, because if he would, he and my grandfather argued a lot. My grandfather couldn't possibly understand why you'd want to go into the wholesale meat business when we have such a great retail store. My dad sort of saw this opportunity to sell country clubs, and the density and everything of these types of customers on Long Island is really overwhelming. There's just so many people, right? It's just a highly populated area, Long Island. Wealth on Long Island. There's people who are going to fancy restaurants. They're going to country clubs. And a lot of these country clubs are sort of under the radar. I don't think anyone fully realized oh, wow, selling, meat or goods and services to these kinds of establishments is, people obviously were doing all the lawn mowing for the country club and the linen and whatever. And over the past 30 years, it's gotten more and more professionalized and super competitive. But I think 30 years ago, when my dad started doing it, the people selling those businesses were taking it for granted. And that gave him a huge opportunity, because a country club said to him, "Hey, you're that meat guy, right? You guys have that family butcher shop in Farmingdale. Could you take a look? I know you don't do wholesale, but could you take a look at our invoices to just check it out? Because we're just curious, And my dad looks at the wholesale invoices and was like, I think I should be in the wholesale meat business, because these guys are like I could, I think he was like, I could get you all this stuff way cheaper. And it was still a good enough margin for him. So I think he realized, right, like these people were not hooking these customers up. So that's how we got into the wholesale game. And we sell primarily like restaurants, country clubs, hotels, higher, we call it like white tablecloth type establishments. Even though we are a meat company, we sell a ton of beef. Our niche is not like steakhouses. Our niche is more like in Roslyn, a place like Lamani, which is like great. In Huntington, I was going to say Prime. In Huntington, it's like the steak and sushi concept. We do sell Peter Luger's in Brooklyn. So that's like a good, feather in the cap name dropper. But as far as like Casa Lever, 1000 Madison, these are like really nice places in Manhattan, whether it's Italian or French or American bistros or the Plaza Hotel. People always want to say like, oh, do you sell, Keen's, or do you sell Wolfgang's? Or I'm like, I don't sell those places.
Let you know.
If you know the owner, let me know, but there's a lot of business out there and a lot to go around, So even without that focus, we have our niche and it works pretty well.
That's, you and I have known each other for probably 10, 12 years now. And that was always one of the things that I was always mesmerized about your business, is that to 99% of the people, you're a local butcher shop. And I've been into the butcher shop, and I've been in the back, and it's to anybody driving around Long Island during the day realizes that Main Street Meats, you see the trucks all over the place. For the first year I used to send you pictures. I've stopped doing that. But
it's funny. I was talking to someone, I think 2 days ago, and he was saying it was like an interview actually for someone who was maybe going to work for us as sales. Right. And I said, well, how, what entices you about working here or whatever? And he's like, I know you guys. I've been in the food business. I know you. I see your trucks everywhere. And he's like, when you're in a certain industry, or in this case, somebody, right? You only see the meat trucks, right? If you didn't, you probably saw those trucks forever, but before you knew me, now you know me, you see them a lot, right? If you're like thinking about getting into the carpet business, you might all of a sudden start noticing all like the carpet trucks that are on the road, and you're like, or the plumbers, right? And you're like, oh my God, all I see is the Ray the plumber and this plumber and that plumber. I'm sure my buddy who has a plumbing supply company, he doesn't notice the meat trucks. He just notices all the plumbing trucks out there, But yeah, we do try to, obviously our trucks are like, have our logo and our name on them, but I don't want, so we're not trying to be under the radar. Obviously we want as much business as we can handle, right? Like obviously you can't just sell everybody, but we don't really, I was telling you before, we don't do much super, proactive advertising, or, we're not going out of our way to sort of put our name out there into the marketplace as much. I've always felt like the way that you advertise, at least for our kind of business, is just by doing a good job for your current customers, right? I don't need to take out ads in any newspaper. I just do a good job every day. If I do a good job every day for our current business, I don't need to go look for new business because they'll be happy. We provide them a good service. And then when their friends say, who's your meat guy? They're happy to tell them. They're not like, ugh, my meat guy's, he's not good, dude. I wouldn't tell you to buy, right? Like there are people that I maybe have a business relationship with that I'm not psyched about, and or we use them for a certain service, or right. You maybe wouldn't recommend them. You wouldn't say, oh, you should, but you're using them for whatever reason. We hope to be someone that our customers enjoy talking to, enjoy dealing with, and it's like we're like a good part of their process, not a headache,
Yeah, it's the service really, the customer service, and for small businesses, and I consider all these small businesses is the key for any sort of growth. It's just the basis.
And it's so, what we do is so transactional and it's so perpetual that there's a lot of our interaction with a customer is every day. You know what I mean? Like it's a real relationship. We're not selling. If you're, to use the plumbing example, you might call your plumber 4, 5, 6 times a year or whatever, like when you have an issue or you're doing a project or something goes wrong, but you're not really dealing with them. If you buy a really expensive hood for a kitchen or whatever, like the exhaust system, you're dealing with that guy a lot for that project, but then you may never talk to him for 5 years, whatever. With us, like they're buying meat from us like every day. So we're delivering, our truck is there almost every day. The driver becomes friends with the people in the kitchen, and they say, what's going on? He knows when a certain receiver's off, and he says, oh, Frank's not here today. I know that you like it over here. And it's like, this guy here, let me open the box tops for you. And like, you really sort of, it's different when you're just like there all the time. And then you're part of like, because it's just so perpetual. And on Long Island also, a function of it being so crowded is that a lot of the places that we sell, their kitchens and their coolers are small physically. If you go back into kitchens, right, real estate's expensive. If you're designing a restaurant, do you want more seats in the front or do you want the people in the back to have a super fancy kitchen? Most of the time, you're going to want to put more seats, right, because that drives the thing. That makes you money. So the coolers in the back are small. So they got to order all the time. They can't stock, and you don't necessarily want to stock up, right? You don't want to, what if it rains? What if there's a snowstorm? What if the power goes out, right? I don't want to be sitting on $1,000 worth of meat if I know that Lee and Main Street will just bring it to me tomorrow, And so it's like we get in that perpetual thing where, for us, a really good customer, like when they finish service at the end of the night, they pick up their clipboard and they're like, okay, I got to call Main Street, and they just go down the line and they just like are re-upping on all the different things they buy from us, and then maybe getting some special items from us, or, oh yeah, I was going to try this. Send me some oxtails, send me some pork shanks. The weather's changing and it just keeps going. You might talk to them. We have some chefs who call here multiple times a day.
So let me ask you a question. You've got this highly transactional business, the whole fulfillment, you're delivering, you walk. How do you handle this? I mean, what is the actual, I own Arthur's Steakhouse. What is the actual process? How does that effectuate before I get my delivery?
It's actually pretty easy. I mean, we have like a credit application. If somebody, like, say there's someone who has a restaurant out there, they probably are going to, and they want to buy meat from us and they never have before. They send an email to probably info@mainstreetmeats.com saying, hey, I'm Arthur. I own this steakhouse. How do I get meat from you? We send them back a credit application. We say, oh, you've never been in the restaurant business before. Sorry, buddy. First couple of orders, you got to pay me that day, right? So if you say to me, right, if you're not looking for credit, a lot of the restaurants want credit of either, 7 days or 14 days or bill to bill or 30 days, 45 days. Bigger institutions like a hospital, a hotel, a university might need 60 or 90 days, which you don't want to extend them that long of credit, but you might do it because they're institutional. You're going to get paid. It just takes a while because there's a lot of bureaucracy involved with like submitting your invoice and getting you paid, whatever. But for you, if you have no credit, but you say to me, oh, I'll pay you tomorrow. I go, all right, I'll deliver you meat tomorrow. How much? What do you need? Right? Like it's really simple like that. If you say, oh, well, I need credit or whatever, I'm going to like check your references. I'm going to, call your bank, whatever, make sure it's all good. And still, in this day and age, I'd probably say first couple bills have to be like bill to bill, because I don't know you and I'm not going to have a tab. I'm not going to have you owe me more than $1,000 before I get a penny.
Sure, of course.
Right? I'm not going to be like, sure, Arthur, buy $10,000 worth of meat with me and pay me next week. It's like,
that's just logical business. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's, getting paid is obviously important. Now, to that point, if a longstanding customer calls me who has 7 units, 7 stores, and they're opening a new restaurant, they don't, it's totally different. They just say, hey, I'm opening a new unit. Oh, we have this long relationship. I know you guys are solid. Yeah, you don't need to pay me tomorrow for it. Just send me the address. We'll put it in the system and off we go. Usually newer people, there's a lot of just questions like, how much does this stuff cost? What is, how do you sell it? We can gauge pretty quickly if somebody is very new at this or sort of has a clue of what they're doing or not. If they're really overly demanding right out of the gate, you're like, I don't think this person knows what's going on right now. Like just, you need to do this and you need to do this. Like, slow down, and you can just tell if they don't know the right lingo or they just have no clue what things cost,
So, but I call up your process. I'm going to call up, someone's going to answer. And I've worked all night. My restaurant has been open till 11 o'clock tonight, and we ran out of flank steak, and I've got to get that flank steak in for tomorrow. What is this process? For active customer, I'm an active customer. Yeah.
You're saying for an active customer. Yeah. So our order taking process is a little old school, but we have like 5 different ways that people can order. I mean, we have, as much as we've tried to fully streamline it, we really like to be sort of like whatever you like is best. So I don't want to tell my customers you have to call it in, or you have to email it in, or you have to use my online app, or you have to use your sales rep directly. They can do all those things, right? So we do have a fax. Although I will tell you, at this point, we probably get maybe 5 orders per year on that fax machine. And every once in a while, you'll get even someone like, we'll get a fax from like a local retail customer who lives in Farmingdale, and they like fax us like an order just out of the blue. And then they'll usually the way we know we got it is because they show up in the meat market and we didn't do anything. And they say, you didn't do my order. And we said, what are you talking about? I faxed it to you. Then you go look in the because it's also a printer. And then you're like, funny. Oh, yeah, because we don't take orders like this. But I don't even know how you know the fax number. But anyway, yeah, so we created this online ordering app, which is something that me and a buddy of mine, I designed it. He programmed it. You're a tech person. So it's like MongoDB and Twitter Bootstrap, and like 8 years ago, that was all fancy. I don't know how fancy it is anymore. I could shrug so we have that. We do literally have 4 answering machines. We have like 4 lines because they roll over. And like I have someone, Karen, who's amazing, who pretty much like at 6 nights a week, she clears the tapes where she listens, calls into the thing and listens to the messages and transcribes them for us and then puts it into the computer system. So someone can literally call up, hey, Main Street, this is Arthur from Arthur's Steakhouse. I need 50 pounds of flank steak. I need 3 cases, 8-ounce burgers. I need 2 cases of the chickens that I get. And I need 15 of those steaks that I love, right? Click, right? Those steaks that I love. What does that mean, right? But those steaks that I love is not an actual item, but that is when the cost, right? Like I say that too. Oh, the bacon that I get, and then my vendor knows that I get the Indiana with this slice count. Right? We know when that guy calls, he's saying the steaks that I love. He's talking about his prime 12-ounce New Yorks, or he's talking about his 8-ounce fillets. And now that makes us really good, but it also makes it really hard to like train new people and sort of scale certain things, because when people have to fill in for Karen, because she gets in such a groove with it, that it's harder. And she's actually on vacation this week, and we've survived. But it was when someone just is doing like the same thing and people just know. But we've actually probably phased out a lot of the people have moved away from the answering machines and moved towards the app.
You're slowly pushing them towards technology.
We're trying, because we have found, so the problem with the old school answering machines is that there's no read receipt, so to speak, right? So you leave that answering machine message, you leave that message, you hang up, you don't get a playback of what that message sounded like. So if you're in your cooler, if your reception's shitty, so a lot of times the message could be like, hello, give me, and then like 5 of us are huddled around the answering machine like, wait, I think that's Pasito. I think that's Pasito Roslin. And someone else is like, that's Hudson National Country Club. Like, what are you talking? Right? And then you get in a whole argument. We have no clue who it's for. And we're calling our customers being like, if you ordered from us, you're not getting it today because your guy was in a cooler and we heard nothing. So with the app, they submit it. It sends them an email confirmation. So it's like, right, to be totally honest,
they just don't remember.
There's been times where people will call us and say, where's my order? They never even ordered, right? They either don't remember, maybe they're like putting on a show for their boss, right? They made a mistake, but they don't want to admit it, right? So they got to call the meat guy and yell at him and say, how come you never deliver me my order, right? But with the app, we can say like, no, this is what you ordered. This is what time you ordered it at. You got a return, right? If you guys sent me 20 cases, sure. I said 15 cases, but it's like, it's just better to have like a written record of the order versus like an answering machine message that there's just a lot more room for error. But it's super convenient, and we're we make it work, and we're not in the business of telling people what they have to do. I'm in the business of trying to make it as convenient as possible. So if someone, like, I have this app, and I have a couple of customers who I consider like friends of mine who will not use it. And I've said to him, like, dude, please, like, could you please use the app? It would be great. Like, it's so great. You're going to love it. Like, trust me, all these customers. And they're like, nope, I'm going to email you. I'm like, just so you know, like, emailing me, it could get screwed up, right? Because I'm just like one guy. And like, if I don't see that email, or I like hit archive by accident, your order's like lost in the sauce. If you do it through the app, like 12 people are going to see it. It's going to get into production, whatever. They're like, I'm going to email you, dude. That's how I want to do it. I want to email you directly. I want, you know what I want. And so I don't say to them, no, I say, no problem. Okay, if that's what you want, I'm just letting you know that, because I'm honest with people, perfectly transparent. I'm just letting you know you're choosing a path that has 5 to 8% more chance of something getting screwed up. It's not that likely. I have a pretty good track record of not screwing up orders, but when you get all these emails and people email you at 10 o'clock at night for an order for the next day, there's a chance, right? There's a chance it gets screwed up, especially if something comes up in my life or I get sick or whatever happens, right? But yeah, to that point, they're like, I'm going to email you. Oh, well, can you copy Karen? Can you copy Karen on all the orders? You could forward it to her. Okay. Right? Like, yes, you are right. I'll even set up a rule that all your emails to me will go to her. If you don't want a carbon copy of her or BC, like, it's like, just copy her on the emails. That way it's like an extra. Don't you want your meat to come to you? I'm trying to help you get your meat order, you know? So, but some people just want to do it a certain way. And
technology, it takes a while to change. People are still using a lot of old tech. You have a fax machine. People still, they want to do it a certain way. I understand. So let's talk a little bit about, when your grandfather started in this business, it was right after World War II, but probably nothing anybody's seen in the business like what you've probably dealt with for the last 3 years. How did COVID affect not just your business, the two sides of your business? I'm guessing one side was affected one way and the other side was affected the other way. How did you handle COVID? What were the effects and how did you handle it?
So yeah, COVID definitely, threw us upside down, major impact for us. Even from the very, very beginning, it was like, okay, we're essential, right? So we're essential workers. That was one of the first things. So as everyone was being told to stay at home and this, that, and the other, we were not, right? So everyone's asking me as the owner, like, what's going on?
Yeah.
Pretty sure we're essential. We're essential. Supermarket workers, food workers, keep coming to work, right? And in the very beginning, I had to get people like a pass that said they're essential. I mean, it was like a freaking war zone. You're driving to work. It's a ghost town, right? Like the whole world is shutting down. We're still coming to work. Our restaurants and everything, like overnight, just stopped ordering, right? It's like, so everyone's getting shut down out there. There's no restaurants. People are returning orders. This was right before St. Patrick's Day. So I had a lot of corned beef that nobody bought because St. Patrick's Day essentially didn't happen. I had a lot of people return corned beef to me, which we are amazing. And we took it back. We said, hey, I'm not going to stick you with this stuff. I'll figure something out. We let them return it.
Sure.
Because we have a good relationship with our customers. And I'm not, I'm playing the long game. I'm not trying to make someone eat $1,200 worth of corned beef that they don't need now to stick it to them when I know that that's dumb and I'll figure something out, Yeah, so our wholesale business basically like shut down. We were stuck with a lot of meat that was here that we didn't need. We had all this dry aging meat that you could only sell so much of at retail. Thankfully for us, we have the retail outlets. At the same time that the wholesale was shutting down, the retail was like insane, right? Like, so we stayed open, then the retail stores, so people were coming in, and then as it started, like the reality of what was going on, we're like, our store is too small, there's too many people in here, we're not properly social distancing. I'm pretty sure this social distancing thing is like important, right? Like in the beginning, it was like, I don't know what's happening, but then, we went from like a line outside to like totally closing the store and only doing curbside pickups, and then I have an e-commerce website now that people could order online at farmingdalemeatmarket.com, but we didn't, before the pandemic, that was not an e-commerce site. It was just like informational. So the biggest problem for us is that I had the meat, right? and I had the workers here, and I had the people in the community who wanted the meat, but we didn't have a good system to take the orders, right? So people were stuck at home, and they're just like freaking out, right? The end of the world's coming. There's runs on toilet paper. The people are freaking out at the supermarkets. They're taking whatever they can. So they're calling Farmingdale Meat Market. The problem is, like, I only have 4 phone lines. I don't have 12 phone lines. I only have 2 or 3 people to answer the phone, right? Like, I don't have a whole trained staff to take orders on the phone, right? My butchers help when the store is open, 100 or 200 people a day, but they take that order verbally. They talk to the person. They get the meat one by one. They're not taking the order on the phone and then preparing the order and then meeting somebody at back, right? So it's a totally different process, and you can't even price everything like you could price a slice of pizza or a pie of pizza or a pepperoni, whatever, because this is all by weight, right? So for us, one flank steak is not one price. It depends how much it weighs. But we took a leap, and we actually, on our e-commerce site to facilitate this, we figured out like average weights of every single thing. And so my flank steak, if I go, it's like, it's, say it's $8.99 a pound. We know that each flank steak is like 1.3 pounds. And so we can price it now on the website without having to go back in and enter exact weights. And you know what? Sometimes I told my guys in production, always go over, right? So you know what? If it's 1.3 and we're giving them 1.4, I don't care, right? Like, it's like the ease of the transaction and not having to go enter it back in, and the customer being like, oh, these guys are cool. They're, at the very least, they're giving me 1.3 pounds, but I might be getting 1.5 pounds. Like, that's going to earn us goodwill, and it just makes the process easier. During the pandemic, like 6 months in, we start just like in earnest, like building out this website. So as the pandemic's happening, I'm trying to deal with all this crazy stuff and then building the website, because we were like giving away tickets to like Van Halen at a radio station, right? Like, it was like Z100 in like 1985, like every morning at 8:00, the phones were ringing off the hook. And we have a really good email list. We had to limit it to like 75 orders a day. So we were like, tomorrow morning, we're going to take the first 75 calls, and then we're just going to stop answering the phone, right? Because we had to do the work. And if I station people to just answer the phone, right, I have nobody to do the work, right? Because literally we had to stop answering the phones because people like were calling, because now people were hearing, oh, Farmingdale Meat Market has plenty of meat, right? All these other people don't have meat. We have the meat. We have the trucks are running. The meat companies are essential.
And they still have to eat, whether it's at a restaurant or,
All the wholesale is shutting down, but all the consumers around the country still want meat. We have a great track record in it. And then meat got really short, right? So meat got in really short supply. So now because all the packing plants had to socially distance, and none of their lines and none of their factories are built for social distancing. So now their output goes to 25%, we'll say, right? Instead of them being able to churn and just get meat out, people are getting sick. They got to socially distance the world, right? Not as many people are showing up. Childcare issues, everything you read about, and collusion and potentially corruption also, which is still being investigated. So the prices get like exorbitant to the point where if I didn't have a good track record in the industry, I probably couldn't have gotten meat, right? Because at that point, the bigger guys are only selling the meat to people they know are going to pay, right? Because it's 4 times as much money, right? So they don't want to take any chances, but the random people are calling, I need meat, I need meat, I need meat. It's like, screw you. We're not taking new customers right now. I only have 25%. I got to give to the guy Farmingdale. That's in the industry. They call us Farmingdale, right? So Farmingdale's been buying from us for 30 years straight. We're not talking about 2 years. We're not talking about 7 years. We're talking about like 3 decades. You know what I mean? These guys have been buying from us for 30 years. You know how many bounce checks they had? 0. You know, how quickly do they pay their bills? 5 days. You know what I mean? It's like, so people know, and that's why we do that, right? We want to, as much as I want to be a good supplier, I want to be a good customer I want to be a good customer. So, because I want, when the poop hits the fan, I want to be the guy they come to and say, and also when there's deals, they know if you're going to do a deal with someone or a good buy, you don't want to do it with someone who you think might not pay you or might pay you slow. you want to do it with Farmingdale because you know they're solid.
So now let me ask a question, this is, I was right in the group. I just lucky I didn't have the first 75 phone calls because I had your cell number. And I had a big order from you right there, March or April. That
Yes, every single person that I ever knew in my life, including relatives, people from high school that I haven't seen in forever, my brother's prom date from high school, and just like it was, it was crazy. I mean, I went from like being really nervous about, oh my God, what am I going to do with some of this meat, to like 2 days later being like, oh my God, like I can't even feel how many people want the meat.
well, so now let me ask you this question. So this is, and I don't know if you can actually even answer this, but so I know a local store. I don't know if you know Vespa over here in Northport. And right afterwards, they came up with some great pick up and go dining. How much of that business were they able to restore? Not just Vespa, but any store that sort of came up with these strategies to sort of have pick up.
I think some people killed it with that, like Robke's in Northport. You probably know Robke's. Like he did, was so busy. I think a lot of people probably ended up just like keeping their staff and busy and keeping people paid and, getting food to the community. But I don't know that they were necessarily like making money on it, because a lot of the workarounds, like everything, the masks and the cleaning supplies and the
expensive,
just the different processes. Even if now you're taking all the money through a website, there's more credit card processing fees, or, you're losing an extra 3% if you have nobody coming in and just paying the normal way or whatever. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think some businesses, actually were profitable and like did really well. I think a lot of businesses ended up just spinning their wheels.
Just trying to keep the doors wide, open the best they could.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's hard for me. I mean, we have like a lot of, what some restaurants and like country clubs did is for like parts of the pandemic, they adopted sort of like a grocery store type model for their like audience, right? So like say, I'm just making up a name, like Elephant Hills Country Club. It's not a real country club, but I have this elephant here, right? So Elephant Hills Country Club, right? Like shut down, right, during the pandemic. And now they have all these members, right, that don't have their country club to go to. Their members who are members of a country club are probably well-to-do. They're not poor. And so they might even say, at that point, they say to the chef, can you help me get meat, right? So the chef of Elephant Hills calls me and says, hey, Lee, can we actually like put a menu out? Normally my guests, my members would come to the country club and order it, but can we do like a menu type thing where we'll do like a shopping list for them? So instead of now us selling, 100 steaks to this club for a big banquet, we're selling them like 100 like individually wrapped steaks, and then we're putting them in boxes with like some sausage and some chicken. So we were doing sort of like, we were helping them facilitate like basically like food kits or food boxes that it was sort of like, oh, well, my chef has nothing to do, but hey, chef, put together some boxes. We'll email, right? I don't have the email list for their 400 members. They have that email list. And same with a bunch of the restaurant groups. The restaurants were closed, but they wanted to keep people busy. So they had us. There was a lot of, let's just say we use a lot more packaging materials, because things that we would normally, if I normally send someone a 10-pound, 10 pounds of sausage just in a bag, because it's going to an Italian restaurant, they don't need it to be fancy. They're opening it up in the back and using it in their preparation of the food they're serving. Whereas now during the pandemic, we're sending it to people in 1 to 2 pound cryovac packages so that it can get broken up and sent to all these different households.
Yeah,
the food, we were still sending them like the same amount of food, but instead of it getting consumed like at the venue that we're selling it to, now they're selling it to have everyone consume it at their house, and so really annoying. I will say it's very annoying.
But you sounded like you were doing this on the fly. When you get through COVID, you were trying to, like everybody else, get through COVID the best you could with not a business model.
Yeah, this was all on the fly, like a pinball, just like every day, just reacting. What's the best way to do this? Oh, this didn't work yesterday. how can we fix it? Oh shit, like that was no good, that sucked. Oh man, like just learning on the fly. Yeah, and also being super stressed out about like the balance between public safety and what's the right thing to do and just trying to make money and keep right. And then, well, what's the right thing to do even in that regard? Like, is it to keep everyone working or to keep half the people working, right? You have this, I don't want people to get sick.
Yeah.
So we like gave people options like right out of the gate where it was like, if anyone's uncomfortable, you got to tell me, like no one's going to be forced to come in, like try to just really be open with people about all that stuff. And yeah, I mean, there was, I remember with the vaccine and everything, it's like that was super stressful and not knowing the right thing to do as far as there's a lot of talk about, vaccine mandates and that kind of thing. And would small employers, mandate their employees to get vaccinated? And like, we did not do that. I felt some family pressure to do that and some maybe moral thoughts about whether or not I should do it. And then I'm like, I don't think that's my place to do that. Like, I don't. And then I know people who are in similar positions as me who felt like it absolutely was their place to do that.
Yeah.
And they felt like it was not, wasn't even a question. Right. And it was like, of course, we're going to make people get vaccinated.
In that line, let me talk to you about employees. You have, I believe your employees stick around for a while. You don't have a high turnover rate.
Medium, it seems like 50-50.
Because everybody, we're all having problems getting employees now. That's been the biggest challenge for almost any business. And Long Island has this outer boundary on the north and the south, and water all over the place. So we have a limited pool. So how has that affected you, and how are you handling that now?
We have like 55 people right now who work for us. As far as turnover, I'm just trying to give context, I guess. We maybe like half of those people I feel like have been here for a while, and then maybe half it's like within like 3 or 4 years. It seems like there's more churn on that. I mean, we have like finding, good meat cutter or a good driver. I mean, like we really, if we have someone who's like working out, we try to treat them like our prom date. You know what I mean? Like we definitely really appreciate our employees. I try to make sure our employees know that. It's not a glamorous type job at all. The guys or girls who work in production are working in the cold. It's you're working inside of a cooler. Literally, you're inside of a refrigerator like all day. It's early hours. People come in at like 3 or 4 in the morning. It's like they leave at noon and they're like, good night. It's like, it's only noon, right? But it's like, it's been a long day. My opening manager gets in at like 1 in the morning just because it's so perpetual and stuff. So I feel like we're in a unique position also just because of my facility is pretty old and sort of we're like maxed out. So it puts me in a position where there's only so many people I can have who work here. Otherwise, there's no more room, right? So like, I think right now we're at like 55. I think we were at maybe like 60 or 62 in like the height of the summer. And now this time of year, it's like a little less busy. And not that we laid people off, but some people didn't like work out and we haven't had to replace them. And we probably won't replace them maybe till the spring or something, till March or something. So we'll be back up to probably 60. We'll probably hire like 5 more people come March or something, but we can sort of limp through, the rest of the year and then January, February, March with a smaller staff. For us, though, it is a challenge because January, February, March are very, very slow. And you don't want to lay anybody off because it is difficult to find good people. I mean, we develop relationships with our staff and our crew. And it's like, I don't want to just like, every year be like looking for new people. So January, February, March, we try to give people vacation and ask them if they want to take an extra week off. Hey, we won't mind, or do you want to, do cross training or just work a little bit less? If you're hourly, do you mind working like 30 hours a week, maybe for 1 or 3 weeks? Because we want to keep everybody, and so we try to do that. But yeah, I mean, finding it's hard, it's a very, specific manual labor kind of thing that, there's like people who want to be like butchers at like a hipster butcher shop in Brooklyn, But like, and maybe in urban areas, it's like cool to be like a hipster butcher. But like on Long Island and stuff, there's not that many like young kids coming in here saying they want to be butchers.
Yeah, it seems to me, I mean, the same philosophy you have with your vendors and your customers is the same philosophy you have with your employees. You treat them right and you do the best to keep them around.
You try. I mean, you try, right? Like every single person who works here, in theory, we want them to be here, right? If we didn't want them to be here, they wouldn't still be working here. So then you want to just like, treat people well. Hopefully they're happy. They work hard for you. They, like their coworkers. So they're, happy to sort of see the mission go well. And that way everyone's, it's like everyone's going to be taken care of, right? The success of the company is going to dictate how well everyone's life goes on a certain level. Like if the company doesn't go well, that's going to be bad for everybody. Like not just Lee, but it's going to be bad for you guys too. Because obviously
55 other people. Yeah.
Yeah. You're coming here not for your health. Like you're coming here to make money and pay your bills. And like we get that's the function here.
76 years going to the crystal ball. What is the next 24 years that gets you to 100?
Gosh, it's a really good question, sir. Constantly thinking about that, trying to figure that out. We do have facility challenges. They're all good challenges to have. It's like our challenges are a function of being too busy. You know what I mean? So there's definitely opportunities for us to expand if we were to, do production maybe somewhere else. So we're constantly like looking at stuff like that, whether it's us, buying property and building a facility, whether it's us leasing refrigerated space from someone who has a huge warehouse, whether it's us, partnering or merging with other companies. I mean, we're totally open-minded to all those kinds of scenarios. But yeah, it's definitely, I don't know that we'll just be in the same physical location for the next 20 something years, but maybe we will be, because this model, I also, I don't necessarily think just bigger is better. You know what I mean? I don't have the desire to have a 250 person company just cause. I mean, that would be cool because like if you're employing more people, that's like more people that are doing well because of this thing. And that's a good thing. But to me, just having a big company, quadrupling in size just for the sake of it, it doesn't do it for me. Right. So like, that's not my specific goal, especially if you can be just as profitable at this size, because sometimes bigger doesn't mean more profitable, although usually it does. Volume, right? Volume does help everything. But yeah, we're in a really unique situation here. We've been in the same real estate for 70 something years. My grandfather.
This is the exact location your grandfather started?
Pretty much. I think technically we're like 3 doors down from there. I think he was 3 doors down for a year or two, but like sort of as the story goes, we've been here for the whole time. But I think it was maybe 1 or 2 shops over, like ages ago.
Close enough.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know, man. I don't know. I've thought about like Farmingdale Meat Market being in Farmingdale, but maybe at a different location with better parking. I mean, we're right on Main Street, and the municipal parking here is like a little bit of a challenge. And, if we had like our own parking lot, that would probably be better. And people, if I was half a mile from where I am right now, what's the difference, right? Like people would go. We've been in the community for so long. They're not going to just forget about us. Like we promote it so they'd know where to go. So I think, maybe we should move and like renovate the facility, whatever. And then I just think like, I don't know, it's part of our DNA to be like here, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like right here is like, that's just where Farmingdale Meat Market is, and then, but for the wholesale business, our physical plant, our facility works against us, it really does. So it's, we've gotten really, really ingenious at being inefficient. Like we're the most inefficient people you've ever seen.
Work with what you got.
So we know like every trick in the book of how to make this facility work for us, but we're just so used to it that like just with like the right loading docks and, all the tractor trailers are coming through the municipal parking lot, and our trucks we're hand loading, lots and lots of boxes so things that here take an hour to do at another place would take 5 minutes. We're just used to it. And, there's also a lot of benefits of being, packed in and tight, and people work faster, and less distance to get from point A to point B because it's so packed in there. But yeah, the next 25 years, hopefully wholesale won't be operated out of here. I'm not sure where it would be. Retail store maybe is still here. Maybe it's somewhere else within a mile of here in the community and just like better parking lot. But I don't know, probably just selling meat.
Well, you have a fax machine. Just tell me you have a fax machine. That's going to be gone you're committing within 25 years it'll be gone. 24 years.
Honestly, it depends on that would be a question for my father, Kent, because he is, it would depend on his health 24 years from now. Because if he's alive and kicking and still involved, he'll need that fax machine.
Right.
He's like 76 now, and he thinks he's going to live to like 125. So, 25 years from now, he'll be just.
So I didn't realize your dad's 76. So he was born. Is that coincidental that he was born the same year that your grandfather launched? That is, I didn't realize that. I know your dad. I didn't realize that.
I almost didn't realize that myself till like a year or two ago when it sort of was like, wait a minute, we're promoting finest meat since 1946. Isn't that the year you were born? 1946. Oh, that's weird. I never realized that. So yeah, I had the same kind of realization.
All right. So when's your next show? Lee does comedy, runs comedy shows on the side. When's your next show, Lee?
Right now, I'm looking this way because I have a calendar on the wall. I am in Thanksgiving mode right now, so I probably won't have anything between now and Thanksgiving. Louie's in Port Washington is an awesome restaurant. I love the people over there. Mike is the GM and is a buddy of mine, and we did a comedy show there previously, and I was just emailing him about maybe doing something there in December. But people are always like, oh, tell me about your comedy show. I'm like, you know that I will, right? Like I 100% will tell you because usually I need to get people to show up. So, and then they're like, oh.
You're always in Gotham. You always do Gotham Comedy Club.
Gotham Comedy Club is amazing. I love Andy there, and the Mazzilli brothers are amazing. And I've done shows there. So I've done comedy for like 5 years and, a couple times a month at the most, right? Like I'm not some people who really do comedy can do more shows in 3 nights than I do in almost a year, right? So in 1 week they could do 50 shows. I don't even, it's like when you're really hustling. I wish I could be doing that, but.
So the Mazzilli brothers. I went to elementary school with older brother Chris.
Okay, and Chris and Steve, yeah, they're right, Steve, I believe.
I can't remember the younger brother's name, but I didn't actually know the younger brother was involved. But Chris and I went to elementary school. We lived right over here.
Yeah, no, they're really, really very well respected in the comedy scene nationally. I mean, Gotham Comedy Club has a great name, great reputation. They book great shows. I'm like, literally every single time I do a show there, I'm like, I'm so happy to be here on the stage at Gotham, right? Like it's such
yeah,
it's like an awesome spot. And like what I was gonna say is I've done shows where Jim Gaffigan will show up, Jerry Seinfeld showed up one time, right? So it's like if you're shooting hoops, it's not likely you're gonna play with Michael Jordan or whatever. And obviously, on a comedy show with Jerry Seinfeld is a little different than like we weren't, back and forth with each other. I performed and then 20 minutes later he performed. He didn't see me do anything. He doesn't even know who I am. He wasn't even 5 blocks away when I performed. He was, at his house. He gets in, he comes in, he does his thing, he leaves, right? But still, I was on a show with him, so whatever.
That's good enough. That's good enough.
Jim Gaffigan always walks by me. For some reason, whenever he shows up, he likes to show up right before I'm supposed to go. So I'll be like getting in my headspace, like, all right, I got to go. I'm like Mr. Amateur, crappy comedian, trying to remember my 5 or 6 minutes. And then he walks in and they're like, all right, Lee, you're going to wait now. Like, he's obviously to the point where if I see him, I go tell the guy, I go, Jim's here, dude, you're bumping me right now, right? Like, obviously I'm not going. So, and he's like, but you'll go when he's done. And it's like, well, how long is he going to be? They're like, whatever he wants. They're like, I don't know, whatever. It's either 5 or 25, like depends what he's feeling, probably closer to 25. So just hang out. And then, so now I'm the guy's freaking amazing, but I'm all in my head thinking like, bumping me. Like I got stuff. I'm a real person too here. Like come on. And then I can't even enjoy what he's doing because all I'm thinking about is what I have to do.
It can't be easy going on after.
No, dude, it's horrible. So then every time he's making the audience laugh, I'm like, you asshole. That's just making my job harder. That sucks. And then, but like, I don't know. I think the first time I said, and I think I handled it well, I went up and I go, oh my God, you guys are going to have a story to tell tomorrow. You got Jim Gaffigan and Lee Seelig on the same show, right? So they thought that was funny. Or I said,
was that the highlight of your show, or was it just getting started?
Maybe. No, but and then I think once I said, like, I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure Jim Gaffigan just opened for me, huh? Right? Because you gotta reference it. If you just come on stage and not reference the fact that like an international headliner just came on and crushed it, and now I gotta go do my little thing. It's like you have to mention that, because if you just come on stage trying to do your bit, it's like tone deaf to just right. Like Michael Jordan just came on and just destroyed, and without even trying, because he's a professional.
Lee, that is it. Thank you for being the first. I think we did well. You're the first interview of Meet Long Island. I'm excited for many more.
How did we do? Did we do good?
And, this one we're actually going to change the logo to MEAT Long Island.
Meet MEAT? Meet Long Island?
After this, it'll be Meet Long Island with 2 E's. You are. I should have consulted with you first. Lee, that's it.
I'm a creative thinker, Arthur.
No, stay on for a few.
All right, I'm going to hang up now, man. Okay, thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Meet Long Island. We certainly hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions or suggestions for future episodes, leave them in the comments or reach out to us directly. Remember to subscribe, and we hope to have you back for the next exciting episode of Meet Long Island.